welcome in everybody. It is Thursday night and it's time for another edition of the Joe Quills Show. I am that ugly looking dude, Joe Quills. Anyways, not anticipating a long show tonight. It's Thursday night. Maybe I sneak in um, a Thursday fade, a Philly fade, because it was originally the Friday fade, but I don't do the solo audio anymore. But and yeah, I still have to do those. Still have to do the audios upload this week's shows because things got away from me, and the next thing you know, it happens. So, but coming up on the show, we'll talk about some of the games here. We got a damn good game going in Providence here, Kansas and Arkansas. Arkansas holds a 1 point lead here, and I need this win. Not for the brackets, but because I put my last $5 on Arkansas on the money line here. So boom, there's a three. 145 to go. Arkansas at four. Um, so we'll talk about my observations now. I'll warn you now, those that are watching. My views are not going to be the most accurate, the most concise, or anything like that. Um, I'm just going to give you a synopsis of what I saw from these games today because of the fact that I was working today, and even though did have a few long stretches where no calls were coming in at redacted company in my department, I could have made some notes here and there, but I'd rather make them up here and prove make people think that I'm actually smarter than I am. But um, but yeah, you have the first day of the tournament today, and this is I joke around, but it's true. It's damn true. Me, I haven't had to do it because I don't have any kids, but um, a lot of younger men purposely get a vasectomy this week so that they can sit there on their couch with bags of frozen peas or whatever they have to watch, and they can watch the game. So sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. So, but it's a nice excuse to get a couple of days off. I used to try to get um, a first weekend or second week of the tournament off. I did make a couple of trips to Vegas during the tournament. One was for the second week of the tournament, which wasn't that fun. Also did the first week of the tournament, which that was fun because first game of the day on the West Coast is 9 a.m. And the best part about it is, even though these games do go to 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, because you get a matchup like this here with Arkansas and Kansas. You have a matchup that could go overtime, and once you go to overtime, it may go two overtimes, three overtimes, and also with this game so close, Arkansas right now has two timeouts left. Kansas has one. They may use all three timeouts combined, and that'll elongate the game. Fouls will elongate the game. I mean, Arkansas only has four fouls right now, so you're looking at the first close game here of the tournament, real close most of the way. Because they were talking now on the Bleacher Brothers show tonight how all the games were double-digit games. Now everything was mostly a double-digit game, but um, McNeese almost gave it away to Clemson, and then the Storm and Mormons at BYU, they won by 9. They were up by 20 at one point, but they came back. So, um, so they look at these games. The early games weren't close. We have our first close one of the tournament here, uh, but we'll see what happens here tonight, and maybe we can see a couple teams winning here now. Um, I was going to sit here with the window open and all that, so I can hear. I don't know how strongly. I don't know how good the microphone is that I'm using tonight with all the outside noise, but it's really gotten cooler out there as it's rained for like the last hour or two, and I had a nice breeze coming in too because it'd be like, dude, it's it's 50 degrees. What are you doing? Well, because it's like 85 in here, a nice breeze like that cools off this apartment, especially with the way the wind's blowing in that direction. But I so it's a rainy night here in Philadelphia. Good night to sit on the couch, watch the game, or what you should be doing, sitting with your phone, sitting with your sitting at your computer or whatever you're doing, and watching me here tonight on the Joe Quill show. Um, so let's get to it here. Arkansas holds a 4-point lead here. Coming up, let's begin with the summary so far of the early games, at least my opinion of them. Let's go. All right, we're going to do it this way. Let's go over here. And I apologize for yawning. It's amazing that I can have a cup of coffee and it has almost no effect on me. But um, let's go to the scores here. I'm just going to go right down the list here. Um, Coming up tonight, we have Utah State and UCLA from Lexington. They will be playing. They'll be playing Tennessee, who won the winner of that game. Omaha takes on St. John's. The Johnnies take on the Raging Paytons, as I call them. That is in Providence, so St. John should have a big contingent of fans there tonight. Michigan and UC San Diego. This is the matchup that everybody's been zeroing in on for upsets. UC San Diego 30-4, Michigan 25-9. Even I took UC San Diego, and that's usually what happens when the fog lifts over Del Mar. UC San Diego, and then the late game tonight. I mean, relatively speaking, because you have 3, 4, 5. You have the possibility of a couple of games going at the same time. Um, you have 3-pointer there for Kansas. They're down 3 with 12 seconds to go. 11.9, but who? Um, just looking here, and I apologize because I printed nothing tonight. I just wasn't in the mood to get up or anything, and I had to get up to close the windows, but I didn't feel like printing anything tonight. Screw it. NC Wilmington takes on Texas Tech here, and if you watched the show last night, and once again, apologies to those that rated me last night because I totally missed it because I was on the one screen. I didn't have the laptop in front of me like I usually do. I do tonight, and we're keeping track of everything tonight. So they caught me off guard. Uh, you know, and we won't get caught with that too often. So we'll see what happens here. So let's get to the games here. Just random thoughts on these games. I'm not going to be too. I'm not going to. I'm probably not going to be too critical in these games. I'm also not going to get too in depth with these games. I mean, I'll give you thoughts on them. We'll begin with the first game of the day, which was Creighton and Louisville. Um, when that game started today, um, when I saw that game on TV, the first thing I saw, and I didn't realize it right away because yeah, I didn't really pay attention to the sites when I was doing these matchups, even though I should have. Um, I had put a wager on Louisville today, and they they had played in and shitty way to start the day. Louisville gave me my first loss. Actually, I started out 0-2 because not only did I have Louisville to start the day, I played High Point in a three-team parlay. So I went 0-2 to start the day. So I have to give myself one of those for the bad start that I had today. But it happens sometimes. So and check out Spread Cover on X. He is um, AJ's co-host on the Bleacher Brothers show, which runs before me, but that runs on the Bleacher Brothers channel on YouTube and on the Bleacher Brothers channel on Twitch. Um, and an array of other channels as well that AJ streams out to. I do my Twitch, twitch.tv/Joe Quills. I use the Bleacher Brothers X until I'm told not to. I am on In the Bleachers on YouTube and my YouTube. My YouTube is at Joe Quills. So, um, but Arkansas just burned their last two timeouts trying to get this ball in. This is not going to end well for John Calipari. It's not. But yeah. And the thing is, with the Louisville game today, and for anybody that's going to be sneaking in, um, these are just my random observations from when I was watching while I was working today. Um, it just seems like middle of the first half, you had a close game. Louisville, you know. Now, I also had the volume down because I'm working, because I can't really have the volume up because it'd be like, what, it'd be like, well, I know I'm calling America because he has college basketball on, but other than that, turn that background noise off. And I know what I'm like when I hear background noise like you wouldn't believe from the customers calling in. But enough about that redacted company stuff. It just seemed like I don't know if it was. I think Louisville did go cold, but you got to see a team in Creighton who has been an attorney versus Louisville with a new head coach. I mean, Kenny Payne was god awful at Louisville. Um, but, I think in some regards, you need that type of a game to get you back on track in terms of playing in the tournament, playing into the second week, and maybe even to the Final Four. But with a game like that, you had a team that was experienced in Creighton who had been there, even though they would lose early on in the tournament, they would have a team in Louisville who, when I had the game on and it was the first game of the day, it was on CBS, and I'm sitting here taking calls, and I'm like, oh shit, they're only playing about 60 miles from campus. I, I, I mean, I didn't really look to see like, oh, they're playing at Rupp Arena. Now, granted, I was working on Sunday, so I wasn't writing in my blank bracket and filling in the first things myself, even though I could have just wait till 7, 8 o'clock when ESPN, CBS, NCAA.com, BleacherBrothers.com, whatever. I just didn't. I just didn't write anything down because, especially that time of the day between 6 and 7, it's a perceived very busy time. And what I mean by that is, you'll have X amount of people on there. It'll just seem like it's really busy because boom, 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 the calls come in. So I didn't have time writing down. I didn't take notes or even mental notes that you know Louisville was in um, Louisville was in Lexington. So I didn't put two and two together with that. And in a way, I'm glad I didn't because I probably would have gone heavier on Louisville. But thankfully, that was just a one game. That was just only a one bracket, a one round loss for me. Now, usually I have those brackets where I have it over the last 3 4 years. I always lose at least one Final Four team the first weekend. It never fails, and it could be, for example, and I'm just making this up. And if it happens, so be it. Even though I do have Gonzaga beating Houston, let's play along. Let's say I had Houston instead of Gonzaga. Houston has bit me in the ass year after year for the last couple of years. So it does happen. But, you know, but there are some guys who get all four Final Four teams, and you have a year like a couple of years ago where, you were lucky to get one of them. And, the ESPN contest. And by the way, Arkansas wins by 7, so I won that bet. Um, but, you look at a lot of these things, and, it just seemed like you got to see Creighton used to being in the tournament. ACC also had a down year this year. They got a couple of teams in there that probably didn't deserve to be in there, and they lost. I mean, they they got beat pretty good. The final score of that game was 89-75. It could have been a lot worse, but Creighton was up. I mean, all of a sudden, I look back and they're up 20. I'm like, holy shit! But um, but Creighton advances. They will take on Houston. They defeated SIU Edwardsville, and I didn't even watch this game, but just looking at the score and everything like that, you know, you can just tell it was Houston's defense. They win 78-40, and the thing is, it's very hard, and that's what she said. It's very hard. Uh, um, it's very hard to only score 40 points in a game. Houston has the team that can play that defense and play it and turn it into another gear with that defense. But the only thing is, the way Houston can be in the tournament over the last few years, and trust me, I fell prey to it last year because I think I had them winning it all. Um, you have these teams, you have teams like this that are a superior team. For some reason, for some reason, you have one of those nights where you just can't do a damn thing and you're eliminated. Now, with Houston, Gonzaga is probably the worst number 8 team that they can play in the history of the NCAA tournament. Because guess what? Gonzaga has that history. They're not going to be afraid of Houston's defense. And if Houston has, you know, doesn't have a great defensive day, doesn't have a great offensive day, they could be on upset alert. We'll see what happens over the next 48 hours, and I'm hoping that's a Saturday primetime game. We'll see what happens when the schedule gets released because I don't think those games have been released yet. Let me just double check something here because I mean, with me because I have no script in mind here tonight. My mind goes all over the place. So, um, Yeah, yeah. I think what they're going to do, well, what they're doing is they're waiting for um, these other matchups to be known before they announce them. So I would imagine Houston and Gonzaga will be a primetime game. Um, we'll see. We'll see what happens here. But so Louisville got spanked. Houston destroyed SIU Edwardsville. First time in the tournament. Good learning lesson for them. You know, and they're a small college school. They just got out of the that probationary period, as I'll call it, because they recently went from D2 to D1, and they had to sit 5 years. Now it's 4 years. Personally, I think it should be 0 years, but or maybe one or two, not four, because I think it's a little unfair that you have your team together and you win a tournament, and it's like, even if your net ranking is like 30, we can't put them in the NCAA tournament. They're on this probation period. But but usually the teams that go from D2 to D1, or with St. Thomas, they had to go from D3 to D1 because their athletics were so superior in that conference. They got kicked out of the conference. They got kicked out for something totally unlike Temple University many years ago, because if you remember Temple, their football team was so horseshit. They got kicked out of the Big East. Now you had St. Thomas in Minnesota. They were so superior in the sports that they were in whatever conference they were. They ended up getting kicked out. But um, but yeah, so Um, but SIU Edwardsville, there's something to be ashamed of. You got to the tournament. It's just that you ended up facing the worst team possible for a debut, because they will make you look bad defensively. With their defense, and their offense is pretty good as well. So not that big of a, not, when you look back on it after after it wears out, it's it's definitely something you should not be ashamed of. So I'm putting in a bet here right now before I continue with the my thoughts on this. Um, the Drake's Cakes are up 11 on Mizzou right now. I call them the Drake's Cakes because I'm a junk food eater. Um, uh, all right, I'm playing on Fanatics tonight because I'm getting the Fanatics points with it. So it's just, hey, let me just use this tonight. So I am taking St. John's. Um, I'm taking St. John's minus 19, and there is a 10% boost right now on there. Minimum odds of minus 500. It's minus 19 at minus 110. I get it down to minus 101. Yes, please. Um, but I think St. John's could be in trouble in round two with Arkansas winning, because John Calipari and Rick Pitino have been rivals for many years, and he would know how to beat a Rick Pitino defense. That's why I took Arkansas over St. John's. If you watched last night's show, so let's get back to these summaries I have here. Um, And these are going to go in no particular order here. I tried to do them in order, but ESPN doesn't have these in order. These games finished. Gonzaga blew out Georgia 89-23. It was 20-3 early on, and they never looked back. Maybe the SEC just had too many teams maybe Gonzaga should have been ranked much higher than they were, but they lost 8 games this year. They did win their conference, but it was a let me go over here. If I can get this to go. Um, Actually, Gonzaga did not win the conference in the regular season. They were 14-4. St. Mary's was 17-1. It's just that Gonzaga, because they had the number two seed, they didn't have to step into the tournament until the semifinals. They only had to win 2 games. They beat up on St. Mary's in the finals. So, um, but yeah, they 4 losses in conference for Gonzaga. That is, in terms of a regular season, a major disappointment if you think about it. I mean, they lost in conference to Oregon State on the road. Now that's especially this year because it's the first year that they're out of the Big Ten, the Pac-12. You can have that happen. I can understand that. They lost at home to Santa Clara, which is probably a bit of a shocker there. Santa Clara was 13-7 at the time. They went 21-12. Santa Clara's an ENIT. They lost at St. Mary's, which that would probably be the only expected loss. But they also lost to St. Mary's at home towards the end of the regular season. So a couple of surprising losses there if you really think about it. I mean, the road game at St. Mary's that probably wasn't that much of a surprise, but they are peaking at the right time. AJ, the host of the Bleacher Brothers show, he has Gonzaga, and you know, yeah, I may not necessarily jump on the bandwagon there of Gonzaga, but you got Houston next, which should be a primetime game on CBS. At least you would think so. Um, you got a great chance here to see some great basketball, and Houston could be on upset alert because of the fact that Gonzaga has done this year after year after year. Now, granted, the the players on the team change year over year, especially because it's whether it's 4 years, they stay 4 years, or they're one and done or two and done. You know, those things are going to happen, but you know, but Gonzaga has been there, Houston's been there, and I saw a crazy stat. I think it was during the Gonzaga game. Um, the um, Gonzaga has been to the Sweet 16 9 straight years. Houston's been to the Sweet 16 5 years in a row. They're the only 2 teams that have done that in Division One, where they've gone to the 5 years, Sweet 16 5 years in a row. And like the announcer said, I don't know who it was exactly, because I think Tom McCarthy, the Phillies play-by-play guy, he's calling one of the sites today. But um, but you know, but they did say, hey, something's got to give with these two, and rightfully so. But um, but yeah, you have a matchup that probably shouldn't be a Sweet 16. It probably should be, at the very least, a regional semifinal, in my opinion. But Gonzaga did advance today. Um, let me see here. Going back to the scoreboard here. BYU beat VCU 80-71. The Stormin' Mormons, they had a big lead in the second half. This game probably wasn't as close as the scoreboard indicates here. But VCU was trying to get back into the game, but BYU kept them at arm's length, and they moved on to the next round. McNeese beat Clemson today. got a little too close for comfort there at the end, 69-67. But McNeese was up 18 at the half, 31-13. And I'm going to say one thing right now. I almost scored as many points as Clemson in the first half. I scored zero. And if you only scored 13 points, that's basically a zero. And they gave up 24 points. The lowest point total that Clemson had in the first half this year was 24. Well, they only had 13 today, and McNeese, they were everybody's upset pick last year, lost in the first round. Um, Maybe they're playing to tell their head coach, who reportedly accepted the NC State job. They're probably saying, you may not want to go there. You may want to stay here. But the head coach, um, um, the head coach for um, McNeese, um, he got fired by LSU for some sort of a NCAA violation. I forget what it is off the top of my head, but you know those things happen, and you learn from them. And he went to a small school, proved his worth there, and he's now going to be in the ACC next year, according to reports. So, um, but he has at least one more game with McNeese. We'll get into some of those other games in a second. Actually, they will be playing Purdue, who beat up on High Point 75-63. And it just seemed like that High Point, and dare I say that this is the high point of High Point athletics, that their basketball team made the NCAA tournament. Um, it just seemed to me, and I had it on the one TV while I had the other game. I had CBS on my other TV. It was just because I had an antenna for the one TV. But when I looked at everything, Purdue would be up 6 or 8, and the next thing you know, High Point would get it down to 3 or 2. But in the end, it was Purdue who pulled away late for the win, and they take on McNeese here in the second round of the tournament. That probably will be an earlier game on Saturday, at least I think so. Uh, we'll find out probably end of the night or maybe early tomorrow morning when those games will be held. So McNeese and Purdue. Scrolling up on my screen here, um, Wisconsin beat up on Montana 85-66. Not much of a surprise here. I didn't even see this game, but it was what was expected. The line was 18 and a half, at least the last I saw it. So let's see. Yeah, it was 16 and a half on ESPN bet. So they ended up covering the spread. I saw 18 and a half this morning, or at least I did, but maybe my eyes were deceiving me. So Wisconsin advances. Um, they take on BYU, which should be an interesting game. Um, Tennessee earlier tonight beat Wofford 77-62. It just seemed like Wofford was hanging around a little bit, and Tennessee said that's enough. Auburn was a little shaky in their game against Alabama State, but they won that game. They will go to the second round, and they face Creighton, who was an impressive winner today. Um, and I'm just looking over these here real quick. Um, Houston, SIU, Edwardsville, we talked about. Texas A&M beat Yale tonight, 80-71. Um, you know, this had a chance of being an upset game. Texas A&M did what they did. They did what they had to do. They covered the spread. I think the spread was 7.5. And Arkansas ended up beating Kansas 79-72 tonight. So uh, Arkansas will play the winner of St. John's and Omaha. And if St. John's wins, we have Calipari and Patino in round two. And that probably will be a primetime game as well on Saturday. So coming up here right now, uh, the Drake's Cakes are up 4 on Missouri. I shouldn't say Drake's Cakes. I'm starting to get hungry. UCLA leads Utah State by 5 right now, 19-14. Uh, Omaha and St. John's will start around 9:45. Michigan and UC San Diego at 10. Texas Tech and NC Wilmington scheduled for 10:10 as of right now. And these second games are subject to change because they usually start about 25 to 30 minutes after the previous game ends. But um, so that's the first round here so far, and right now I'm 7-3 in my bracket, which is pretty good considering I started off 0-2. Um, I lost with Louisville first day. I lost with High Point, and I had McNeese. They lost. Actually, I'm 7-5 or I don't know, whatever it is. I only have 7 winners right now, which isn't that great, but yeah, I just have fun with this. I mean, if I could really bear down and do that, I would. But there's so much stuff I do during a day that it's hard to keep track of every little detail known to man. But so that's the first round as of right now. Um, do want to check one thing here, so let's go to the NHL scoreboard here. Just want to check one thing. Flyers lose to the Capitals 3-2. And the only reason why I'm mentioning the Flyers here is because um, Alex Ovechkin scored a goal tonight. It was goal number 888 in his career, so he's 7 away from the record, Wayne Gretzky's record. So he scored at home against the Flyers, beating Samuel Ersson. 5:35 left in the first period. Um, the goal counter in the corner of the arena flipped to 888. Fans started chanting Ovi. 39-year-old winger. It seems like he's like 50 with all that gray hair he has. He has 35 goals this year, tied for fourth most in the league. Um, he has a chance to break the record later this spring. Um, Now, for those that are wondering, it's only regular season goals. So, he could score, he could end up at 893. And if he scores 2 goals in the postseason, those 2 goals don't count. Well, they count for playoff stats, but they don't count for the regular season. So, he'll be, he'll probably be like Hank Aaron when he was going for 715. He was like 1 or 2 homers away going into the new season, and he hit 714 in Cincinnati, he hit 715 in Atlanta. So, um, but he gets his 888th goal there. Um, so so the Caps go to 45-15-8 on the year. Flyers are 28-33-8. Flyers aren't going anywhere because they're processing. There, I said it. I said it. They're processing. Okay, so, um, so yeah, that's what they're doing right now. Um, Actually, I don't know why I snuck that in there because I should have snuck this in with the college basketball stuff. We'll go back to college basketball here because this is why. And I'm totally going against the script here tonight. So let me just make a note here what I'm talking about. Um, um, NCAA update. Um, okay, so one story I missed right away, and you know, I get the motivation that's involved with this, but apparently Norfolk State, who plays, they play Florida tomorrow. Tomorrow night at 6:50 Eastern. Norfolk State is angry over massive underdog status versus Florida. Um, okay, but think about it. They're playing in probably one of the weakest conferences in Division One. So a lot of times, what you have to do is you have to be a sacrificial lamb. Play, and I don't even know if they did. Let me see. Let me look at their schedule here just to prove my point here. Um, Yeah, they played a couple of non-Division One schools: Penn State, Wilkes-Barre, and Virginia Lynchburg. They played at Stanford, ACC school. A little weird to say that. Grand Canyon, they're in the tournament. They played UC Davis, who's been in the tournament. Um, they defeated Alabama State, who won the SWAC. They beat them handily, but ain't that big a deal. They defeated High Point, so that's a good thing. I mean, they only lost by 15 to Tennessee on New Year's Eve, and that was a 29 and a half point line. So you could argue, hey, they kept it close with Tennessee. Why not? So, and I haven't gotten into the article yet, but they did have three losses in conference here. They lost to Morgan State, not Morgan and Morgan, Morgan State. That was a 4 point loss on the road. They lost at NC Central by four in overtime, and they lost at Howard by 12. So they lost three games in the regular season, but they don't play. I mean, that's one of the weakest conferences in Division One. So a little bit of motivational speak here because guess what? Norfolk State coach Robert Jones feels that his team has something to prove. They're 27.5 point underdogs against the SEC tournament champion Gators. Um, he says, I know Florida's really, really good and they run a great program, got great players, but are we that bad that the point spread is like that? I'm a little angry. And like I said, I'm little bit more focused and play better when I'm angry. Okay. I mean, I think that's good speak, but um, but Norfolk State, I think, has been in the tournament a few times. I think didn't they upset somebody? Um, didn't they upset somebody in a 15-2 game, or am I matching things? Um, but the MEAC champions won 20 games in each of the past 4 years. Um, and I just answered my own question. So um, as I look further here at this article here, um, the Spartans do have they won 20 games in each of the past 4 years. This is their third NCAA tournament in the last five. The Spartans have some history in the tournament, upsetting third seeded Missouri in 2012 before losing coincidentally in the next round to Florida, 84-50. So yeah, so they do have they do have that major upset. So now, granted, that's probably about three coaches ago, and of course, with college being a 4 year thing, you're probably like four generations of college basketball players, so to speak. So um, we're trying to show it's more than just the MEAC. It's more than the HBCUs, the historically black colleges and universities. Um, we're trying to show that we are truly one of the best teams in the country. So I think there's a different level of focus and intensity for what they bring. Okay. But the thing is, it's good that you're motivating yourself and you're motivating your team. But what happens when they metaphorically smack you upside the head in the first couple of minutes and you're down 20 early on? Are you going to be feeling the same way? That's what I'm interested in. But um, you said no one in that locker room is scared of playing Florida. Yeah. You may have to do a Hoosiers thing and say, oh, well, you got the you got the free throw line 15 feet away. You got the rim at 10 feet here. The whole Hoosiers thing when they go into Hinkle Fieldhouse. Um, you see these, you know, it's like, hey, we may be a big underdog, but guess what? The rim is the same for us. The 3 point line's the same for us. The free throw line's the same for us. It's just a matter of showing up and doing our jobs. But I think it's great speaking. I don't think this is necessarily bulletin board material. Now, if you said to the media, "Oh, we're going to beat Florida," you know, especially let's say on um, Pat McAfee or on one of the other ESPN shows or Colin Cowherd, and yes, I did call him a Cowherd. Um, you name the show, and if they are looking at, and if you're saying, hey, we're definitely going to beat Florida, kind of like the way they had the thing with, like, for example, Joe Namath, he talked a lot of trash to the media saying, hey, we're going to win this game. And don't you know they did? Well, in this case here, you have a team that if they win, they're going to shock the world. And probably, and that point spread may be even higher than what it was a couple of years ago with Fairleigh Dickinson over Purdue. It's probably more than Virginia losing to UMBC. But I think that they do have. I mean, it's a good motivation for his guys, but if you think about it, you're a major underdog for a reason. It's because they play in the mighty SEC and you play in the measly MEAC. So, um, um, now Jones also he called him, Jones calls himself a New York City guy. Seems intent on proving people wrong, and that there's nothing wrong with that. But I think deep down inside, does he believe this? Maybe. But you you know gotta say, hey, I believe. But if you really think about this here, well, first let me say what he says here. There's doubters in the world because people think that, oh, he's just doing it in the MEAC or he's just doing it in the HBCUs, and that's a damn lie. We do it. We do it all over the country, all across the country. Against some of your favorite coaches. Again, some of your favorite coaches have lost in Norfolk State. Okay, true. It's just another opportunity to go down with a chip on our shoulder, or my shoulder too, and show the world that it's different than what they think it is. But the thing is, if you end up quickly down 20, how are you going to react? And it just seems like it's a bunch of rhetoric here, and rightfully so, because you're trying to motivate your team through the media. Now, I don't necessarily think Florida will be up bulletin board material here, time to read, boom. You don't have any of that, but um, because I think it's he's more talking about his team, whereas he's saying, "Oh, we're definitely beating Florida." That's bulletin board material. But for something like this, really nothing really to, uh, not really anything to really get other teams, get the other team motivated because this looks like a major blowout. But sometimes that major blowout is what gets you. But it's the reason why sometimes you just don't know. You have these things that happen. Next thing maybe they do win, but um, I don't think these were. I don't think this was updated from earlier. The results from earlier today. I don't think. No. Okay. So number 16 seeds were 2 and 154 coming into today's action. It's now 2 and 156 against number one seeds in the NCAA tournament. With the wins that I mentioned before, UMBC knocked off Virginia and Fairleigh Dickinson upset Purdue. UMBC was in 2018. Seems like yesterday, but also seems like 50 years ago. And Fairleigh Dickinson beat Purdue in 2023. Um, so yeah, it's a it's a rare feat, but in a way, it is a little bit of rhetoric. But you got to do what you can to motivate your team here. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But he could be angry all he wants, but he's probably getting blown out by 40 tomorrow. So I did see that. Um, hmm. Well, it's still early, but I got Omaha and St. John's here, and St. John's is down 7-0 already. So might be looking. It's still you still got 36 and a half minutes of basketball, but could be looking at an upset there. Now, I was saying the second half you'd see an upset, but not the first. Um, do want to see one thing here. Okay, so that's everything that's going on right now. Um, It looks like Drake is going to pull off the upset. There's a minute 12 left in that game, according to my screen here. Um, so, uh, Princeton was a 13 when they beat UCLA. They played Georgetown in 86, I think. Um, they played Georgetown, who was a 1, and they lost by 1 point there, and they had a chance to win the game. But other than that, let me double. I know that was a 116, but UCLA was a 413. I remember that. Princeton. Oh, Princeton Georgetown was 1989. Wow, March 17th, 1989. Uh, Hoyas were strong favorites. They were 22-4 going into the game. Princeton was 17-7. Um, and according to Wikipedia here, the game is credited with halting discussions that downsize the NCAA tournament by eliminating automatic bids for smaller conferences. It also reportedly factored into this CBS's decision to renew their NCAA contract later that year and to obtain exclusive broadcasting rights for first round games 2 years later. Because it used to be that the first round would be on ESPN. But they lost in 1989 as a 16 seed by 1 point, but they did win. Um, um, it was right after that because they won in '84. They beat Houston in '84 because Houston lost 2 or 3 years in a row in the finals. They lost in '83 and '84. I remember that. Because Hoya Paranoia was up until '85. Now, it may have, some will argue possibly, um, you can argue that, you know, it went on after that, but I think was that Alonzo Mourning on that team? Um, uh, and oh, by the way, that game was at the Providence Civic Center, which is the arena they're playing at right now. It went through a couple of name changes, but they're still playing there. Princeton was up 8 at the half in that game. Uh, yeah, Alonzo Mourning was the center for that game. Um, yeah, so this is the same arena that they're playing in that the Princeton upset almost happened. It's the Amica Mutual Pavilion. The name was originally the Providence Civic Center, and it was up until a few years ago the Dunkin' Donut Center. Um, that building is 53, 54 years old. Um, and believe it or not, and I don't know why they have tournament games in Providence, other than the fact that they're in the East. That arena only sits. Yeah, it will be eligible for Social Security soon, or a wrecking ball. Um, that arena, the former Providence Civic Center and Dunkin' Donut Center, that arena only seats 12,400 for basketball. Whatever, but just these little things I mentioned before. So, um, did have some breaking news this morning, and um, Drake is up 11, so they're going to upset Missouri here. So the SEC takes another loss here in the first round. Um, a group led by Bill Chisholm Is what it? Oh, the 12,000. Yeah, it only seats 12,000. I did a search here because the Georgetown Princeton game only sat 12,000, but you know, but there's reasons why that they have the games up there. It's like, okay, well, and I think that the arenas bid on these things. I'm not sure how the process goes, but I imagine that they bid on this and they said, all right, well, this year we're going to go to Providence. Um, Let me just check one thing here. Yeah, so they're in Providence, and they try to space these out all around the country. And I guess they wanted to have something in the Northeast. Like for example, next week the East region is at the Prudential Center in Newark. Um, uh, next year, next year, the Wells Fargo Center will be hosting first and second round games. So keep that in mind because you'll have it may be the last time that the Wells Fargo Center has an NCAA tournament because of the fact that they're getting that new stadium, that new arena that they're planning on. Well, Flyers might have gotten strong armed into it because of the commissioner Adam Silver of the NBA, but so um, they are working on that. So, but one thing I did see here, and this was from this morning. Yeah, and they don't usually. I think it's once you get west of the Mississippi, I think the the sites aren't as prevalent or aren't as you don't have as many sites out west because of the fact that you got a whole bunch of mountains in the way. But in the eastern half of the country, you could, even with the regions that you have, if you stick to the south as the south, and the east is the east, and the Midwest is the Midwest. There's a lot of places you can go to. I mean, you can go New York, even though they'll only use Madison Square Garden as a regional. Got Philly, you got DC because DC has the regionals. It should be the other way around, in my opinion. But you know, you got these different sites that they can. Um, you got these different sites that they have. So um, and they spread them out, and they, like Mike says, they do spread the wealth. I think it's just I don't know what the process is, and maybe one night I have to do a deep dive into this. Um, but um, and just looking for something here. Uh, okay, yeah. So I was not imagining things. Tom McCarthy is in Wichita, Kansas today. So he's calling the first two rounds. So I was not imagining things. So, uh, and this year the semifinals and finals um, are on CBS. But going back to the story, getting myself sidetracked on. Um, uh, the Celtics have somebody who wants to buy them. A group led by Bill Chisholm, the managing partner at Symphony Technology Group, has agreed to purchase the Boston Celtics for a valuation of $6.1 billion dollars. It would surpass the 6.05 billion dollars price a group led by Josh Harris paid for the Washington Commanders, as the most paid for a franchise in North American sports history. Um, the record number for the control stake of an NBA team was set 2 years ago when Matt Ishbibia bought the Phoenix Suns for $4 billion. Um, the new ownership group also includes Boston business leaders Rob Hale, who is a current Celtics shareholder, and Bruce Beal Jr. The sale is agreement was announced today, but no terms are disclosed. Um, so they began the sale process shortly after they won their record 18th title last summer, when the team controlling ownership group Boston Basketball Partners LLC, a group led by co-owners Wick Grausbeck and Steve Palugia, stunned the basketball world by announcing it would uh, uh, that it would be selling the controlling stake in the franchise after more than 2 decades of stable ownership of one of the most iconic franchises in North American sports. Uh, Pat liked my $6 billion. I had to do um, Doctor Evil from um, Austin Powers. I had to do it. Um, so let me go back to my story here. Um, Now, Grossback, whose family leads the ownership group that bought the team in 2002 for $360 million, asked Chisholm to stay on as CEO and governor for the next 3 seasons. And I'm glad to do so. Or Chisholm asked Grousbeck if he would stay. He said, yeah. He just won't be an owner. Um, so the agreement calls for a two-part sale in which Chisholm would acquire at least 51% of the team upon approval by the NBA Board of Governors, which could come as soon as the summer. The current owners would have the option to retain the remainder of their shares until 2028, when they would be sold at a price that could be up to 20% higher based on a formula determined by the league revenue growth. So, yeah, you sell half of the team or you sell the majority of it, as in 51%. Well, guess what? You're going to get more bang for your buck with that other 49 when you leave the team altogether. So, um, um, during a conference call with reporters in November after Boston visited the White House to celebrate its title, Grossbeck reiterated the plan for him to remain in charge after the sale and through 2028. Um, Timing aside, which isn't in dispute, is that for the first time in a generation, the Celtics are changing hands with Chisholm, who has made his fortune in private equity, taking over a team that not only is one of the favorites to repeat as champions, but also has massive questions ahead of it for this summer. Um, so Boston is on pace this year to surpass $500 million in combined payroll and luxury tax payments next season, as Jason Tatum's Supermax extension officially comes online at the same time as the final steps of the current collective bargaining agreement comes online, making it prohibitively expensive to keep a team like this together for the long term. Um, However, the Celtics are one of the favorites to win the title this season, and they hope to become the first repeat champions since the 17-18 Golden State Warriors. Um, so Chisholm did say, "I'm a fan. That's the most important thing. I bleed green. I'm up for a challenge." So, this was rumored to happen. It was weird timing because you just won a championship. But if you think about it, get the you get the money. You know, I mean, in a way, it is perfect timing because guess what? There's going to be interest out there from the amazingly stinking rich, and Chisholm is absolutely stinking rich, and got this. He's got the job here. So Celtics are sold, and that'll be approved this summer. I don't see anything that would. Um, I don't see anything that would make the make them not approve it, but we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that should be done. Um, I am going to do a Philly fade tonight. I apologize for yawning here, but um, the DJ for the Philadelphia Phillies locker room has been optioned to AAA. Garrett Stubbs knew the odds were long before he got the Baycare ballpark last month they would be on the team. Um, and he really couldn't do anything about it that he got sent down to AAA. Um, Marshawn would have had to play poorly or get injured, but Marshawn played well. He stayed healthy. So to keep the organization's catching depth, the Phillies on Thursday morning optioned Garrett Stubbs to AAA Lehigh Valley. Now, the reason why that they did this is, well, first let me tell you how this all works. Once you get on a major league roster, you can be, well, once you get on the 40-man roster, I should say, you can be optioned 3 years, three times. One time per year it counts. They'll count it one time per year. So think of it this way: you could be sent down up to 5 times in 1 year. It will only count as one. Um, it will only count as one option because things happen. Guys get hurt. You have to fill in for a couple of weeks, and then you go back down so you can play again. You know, so you do have that opportunity. Now, every once in a while, you hear such and such a player is doing a rehab assignment in Lehigh Valley or Reading or Clearwater or Lakewood. If that's the case, then that does not count because you're still technically on the disabled list. So you're still technically with the big club, but you're getting a couple of games in just to make sure everything is okay. You got the swing down, you got the throwing down, whatever position you are, it's that. So you have 3 times that you can be sent down. So Garrett Stubbs, I think this happened in Baltimore. The first 2 times he was sent down, his first 2 options were used. I believe they were in Baltimore. So, he got a cup of coffee, as they call it, in the majors, then got sent back down. That counts as 1 year that you're sent down and option. Second time, second year, okay, we're going to send you to AAA. Well, that's your second time. Now, it isn't that you get sent, it doesn't count as 3 trips if you're going back and forth between the majors and AAA 3 different times in the same year. It only counts as one. But you do have 3 different years. Now, Marshawn, each of the last 3 years, was sent down to the minors. Now, what you would have to do if you were sending Marshawn down is you would have to designate him for assignment, which basically means He's off the 40-man roster. He's on waivers. If let's say you're looking for a catcher and you're the Chicago White Sox. I only mention them because they were the worst team in baseball last year. It goes in. The waiver wire goes from the worst team to the best team. So Chicago White Sox would probably be number one, and then you would have Colorado, and then you go right down. If you claim him, if you claim him, he becomes property of that team. Now, if he goes through that waiver process and doesn't end up getting claimed by somebody, and also with him being a major league minimum salary, teams will pick him up, especially if they want to use him in the majors. So yeah, we did talk about that. Yeah, Ovechkin did score tonight on the Flyers. Samuel Ersson, uh, late in the first period of the game tonight. Um, but when it comes to Marchand, he's a prospect. May be the guy that takes over for JT Realmuto, maybe even next year. May even be later this year, because the one thing I've been advocating, and maybe this is why um, JT did say that they are talking extension with him. One thing that I've said for the last couple of months, at least this offseason, if you're going to keep JT after this year, you have to move him out from behind the plate. Now, can you put him in the outfield? I think he's a little too old. Um, could he play first base? Possibly. But you have Bryce Harper there. But Bryce Harper has said, hey, you need me in the outfield, I can go back out there. So the whole waiver wire process, you would be endangering yourself to lose Marchand to another team because he did not have any of those options left, because you used them the last 3 years. At least I think it's the last 3 years. So when you're looking at everything, and you're not going to carry three catchers, even though you have a 26-man roster, uh, like maybe in September, when you go from 26 to 28 players, maybe you bring up a third catcher then. I don't know. But when you have, or maybe you hold three catchers because maybe you occasionally draw JT out from behind the bench, out from behind the plate. Not happening, um, but you do have an aging catcher back there who's gotten hurt the last couple of years. And Marchand may get a little more playing time than what he thinks, or what some of us may think, because JT used to play almost every game when he first got to Philly. But you had to make a decision because the regular season starts a week from today. Um, Unlike last year, I won't have a sidecast of the Phillies game because I'll be working both the home opener and the road opener. Um, I really think that it comes down to the fact that one guy had 1 year, or had one option left, the other guy did not. And also, Garrett Stubbs, I think, and I'm going to check something here. In my small reference. So, just so I can now. Also, Garrett Stubbs is almost 32 years old as well, but he doesn't have the um, he doesn't have the wear and tear on him that JT has because he sits on the bench all day. Um, he has 4.120 service time. Um, and he is part of the Boris Corporation. So Scott Boris is his agent. Um, so let me just see some of his stats here. Um, I'm sorry, he was Garrett Stubbs was not with Baltimore. He was with Houston. My bad. Um, I'm just trying to see here. So he has 4 years, so he can still go down to the minors. Um, and here's the thing, I have to see because also with the one great thing about out of the park baseball, you do have um, very it's a cerebral baseball game. You get to be the manager and or the general manager and all that, so you get to do all that stuff. um, the one thing I would say is the game is has all the collective bargaining agreement stuff with 10 and 5 guys, um, players refusing going to the minors after a certain time. I think it's 5 years. It may be six. It may be six, but I think it's five. But whatever it is, um, Garrett Stubbs could not refuse it because he only has 4 years of major league service. So since he only has four, he could be forced down to AAA, even though the term is option. There's no option in this. He has to go down. It's just what they. It's just the baseball lingo that they have there. So, um, but we do have. Um, so he'll be going down the Lehigh Valley. I mean, technically he's going up the Lehigh Valley, up the Turnpike, up the Northeast Extension. But in terms of the baseball parlance, he's going down to AAA from the majors. So it'll be interesting to see what um, happens as a result. And who knows? Maybe Marshawn catches on. We'll see. We'll see how he reacts to being in the majors but not playing every day. Because there's been a couple of times that he's been playing. He's got 2 years of service, so um, he played in 2020 for nine plate appearances. He played in 21, and he played last year. Had 56 plate appearances. Played in 3 games in 2020, 20 games in 21, and he played in 17 games last year. So probably, and he'll have to get used to sitting on the bench, and if you think about it, in some ways, at least in my opinion, um, with everything with this, you're used to playing every day in the minor leagues, and now you're in the majors. In a situation like this, where you win the job, but you're not going to play every day. But it's also a learning tool because guess what? You also get to talk to JT. It's like, well, these pitchers and all that. What do you do? and everything that's in the nuance of everything with that. Um, so you're looking at a guy who will have to get used to playing 1 to 2 days a week right now. And if JT, God forbid, gets hurt, he'll get to play every day, and Garrett Stubbs will be his backup. Um, but Garrett Stubbs probably will be the everyday catcher down at Lehigh Valley. I don't know what their depth chart is like, but you get. But Garrett Stubbs right now is a luxury player for being a backup because you can send him down to AAA. He doesn't have enough time to refuse an assignment. He gets to go down there. He gets an opportunity to play, or maybe he is a backup there to whatever catcher is the number one catcher, whoever that is, and he gets to mentor him. Who knows? But I'm sure I'm sure it's more than just playing for Stubbsy. It's also a couple of different things as well. So, but um, he'll be he'll be playing at AAA and uh, being the DJ in the Lehigh Valley clubhouse as well. But so that's the story with Garrett Stubbs here. And St. John's is on a 14-2 run. It seems like they woke up a little bit. They realized that Peyton Manning is not on the Omaha team, even though they are the Raging Peytons. Um, and St. John's defense is starting to really turn on here. So they're up 6 right now with about a little over 4 minutes left in the quarter. So in the first half, I mean. So let me pull up my screen here. I'm going to pick a couple of games here for shits and giggles. Uh, Tuesday was not a good night. We went 1-3 with the single wagers, and obviously um, we didn't hit the parlay. Um, Florida Atlantic got blown out. I should have known better and not played FAU, but I did. We did get UAB upsetting St. Joe's up on Hawk Hill, and we almost got an upset with San Jose State. Um, that was looking like a blowout win for Loyola, and they came back and made it a close game. San Jose made it close in the end. So um, just took me about 45 seconds to click on the right page here because all my bookmarks and all that stuff that I have here, you know, stupid. But anyways, it's the Philly fade here. Um, I'll update the stats this weekend. And we'll share my screen here so you guys can see what my picks are for tomorrow. Um, I'm just looking over the games here. The early games, Baylor, Mississippi State. See if there's anything I like. Now, this is a 5-12 game, but Memphis has some injuries. One of their star players is injured, so that's why the line is what it is right now. I'm not touching that game. Um, this seems out of whack, but the one thing I told you was whoever. I said this on Tuesday night, even though North Carolina was up by 30. Whoever I was going to play, whoever would win that game on Tuesday, I was going to play them because usually the Tuesday games in the first four, they usually have to come back and play on Thursday. I think this is only the second time that this has happened, but a Tuesday matchup doesn't have to play again until Friday. So they get an extra day to acclimate to Milwaukee. And hopefully this doesn't change while I'm sitting here, but I'm going to take North Carolina minus 2.5, 100. So I get to double my money or my units here. So I'm going to take North Carolina here, um, an upset in the seedings, but not in terms of looking at the point spread here. So, and by the way, Drake did win 67-57, so Drake's cakes are on the round two. Um, we have, well, you know what? Let's go in Norfolk State and, Georgia, and Florida. You know what? I don't want to take 28 and a half. I don't want to give 28 and a half, but you know what? I think this has a potential of being a major blowout here, and I'll take Florida minus 28 and a half. I think that they could win this by 40. I really do. And you know, Norfolk State plays in the MEAC. This isn't a top tier team that a top tier conference that had a bad year and they found their way out of a wet paper bag. However, this is not that great of a team in terms of them versus the big boys in the league. So we'll go with Florida here, minus 28.5. It's a ton of points, I know, but we'll go there. So um, then keep an eye on this game, New Mexico and Marquette. And here's the reason why I'm going to say keep your eye on this game. Oh shit! I didn't even have this up. So so let me zoom in a little bit more because I am a dope. So North Carolina 2.5 point favorite right now. So I took them. Florida minus 28.5, a ton of points to give up, but I think that that's possible that they blow them out. So those are the first two games I have here. Keep an eye on New Mexico and Marquette, not just because of the game, but because it's very possible that one of those coaches could end up coaching at Villanova. Keep that in mind. Will it happen that one of these guys get there? No, but Shaka Smart, maybe. Can you imagine Richard Pitino in the same conference that his dad's in? Now that would be fun. I don't know if it'll happen, but um, that is a Friday night game in Cleveland. So I'm trying to see who I picked in this game because I don't even know what I picked in my bracket. That's how out of it I am here. So let me go here. Um, okay, so I did take Marquette. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, and New Mexico, I believe, can't shoot free throws if I remember correctly from last night. So I'm going Marquette minus 3.5. I don't like that this is minus 115, but for the sake of this show, I'm taking it. We'll make one last game here. We're going to avoid Oklahoma and UConn. I think UConn wins that, but um, Arizona has a habit of losing early in tournaments. Now, I do not think Arizona loses this game, but I think this game could get a bit uncomfortable for Akron. I mean, for Arizona playing Akron. Akron can score a ton of points. And, if I thought that Akron could win this game, I would just tell you take the 750. But I'm not going to tell you that. Um, I think Akron keeps us close. Maybe Arizona shoots some free throws towards the end of the game and they win by 11 or 12 or 13. But that 14 and a half is a huge line here. So I'm going to take Akron plus 14 and a half. Arizona wins the game, but Akron will cover the point spread here on Friday night. So my plays, going to start with the 4 o'clock game in Milwaukee. Take North Carolina, give the 2.5 plus 100 right now. That's probably going to end up being that won't stay 2.5 at plus 100 much longer. Florida minus 28.5 at minus 105. Marquette minus 3.5 at minus 115. And Akron plus 14.5 at minus 108. So those are my four picks here on the Philly Fade. So, and I have one thing I got to do, and it is very recent, and it's over here. Um, report, spam. And, I have to do this every once in a while. That's a ban evader. Boom. Goodbye. And then we're going to ban your ass. Goodbye. So, yeah. So those are my four picks for tomorrow, the second day of the tournament. And it looks like we're getting some closer games here right now. While UCLA is blowing out Utah State, St. John's is having a hard time with Omaha right now. And Michigan is up 30-21 on UC San Diego right now. So those are the four games right now. So we'll stop sharing that. I'm going to do this. Mute. Um, okay. So what we are going to do, for those that are on Twitch, well, first of all, before we get to that, I do have to mention one other thing here. So, um, first things first. Also eligible Saturday morning at 10 a.m. We got four big races on tap. We may even look at a fifth race here because we have the Breeders' Cup Classic champion Sierra Leone coming back into New Orleans handicap at the fairground. So we may be looking at five races. I'll have to look over that program tonight and tomorrow. So that's on the Bleacher Brothers channels. That'll begin at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. We'll look at the the races from the fairgrounds and the races from Turfway Park. They have the Jeff Ruby Stakes, and I forget what the Oaks race is there. It's not. I'm not doing that on purpose. I having a brain fart here, but those will be the two race. Those will be the two tracks that we look at on Saturday. So those two are the ones that we will look at here. So those that are watching on Twitch, um, we are going to rate out. Now, for those that are watching, um, at least I think we're rating out. Yeah, we are. So, so we are going to rate out here. I am going to raid. I am going to rate out Bridget Case. She's one of the top streamers here on Twitch. I'm going to give her a raid here, and and you'll get to see me Saturday morning at 10 a.m. and catch me and Mike here Monday at 9 o'clock ish Actually, 9 o'clock because they're not doing the show. Bleacher Brothers is not doing the show on Monday, so we'll start right at 9 o'clock unless I get sidetracked. So everybody, do appreciate everybody who's watching. I saw Bank Boy was in here, Brendan was in here, Mike was in here. Um, Spread Cover was watching. That is Junior, the co-host of the Bleacher Brothers show. He was watching on X. So I do appreciate everybody watching on YouTube, on X, and on Twitch. And if you were on Twitch right now, you'd be part of this raid. And get to spread the love to my friends here. Whether they're Bleacher Brothers or not. If you're a good person, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to raid you, all that stuff. So I do appreciate each and every one of you that's watching tonight. Those on Twitch, stay on for the raid here, and those that are going to be. Um, um, those are watching on the other channels. I do appreciate each and every one of you, and we will do it live Monday at 9 p.m. right here at twitch.tv/JoeQuills. And check out Bleacher Brothers for all your sports needs as well. So have a great night, everybody. I will see you on Saturday morning, and if not Saturday morning, Monday night. Good night, everybody.